Coach, when you look at that corner spot, Frank said you're going to look at Kendall Fuller there a little more too. What have you seen so far, and how confident are you that one of those guys will be the answer?
Well, really, I think we've got two outstanding prospects with Brandon Faison and Kendall Fuller. I've really been pleased with Kendall's just football IQ, his body positioning, just a very instinctive, solid, technique-wise, besides a guy that has tremendous ability. You know, he's going to play a little corner, and we're actually have him in our nickel spot, and I really like what I see so far. You know, we've been putting in, we put in our pressures yesterday. We have run some outside pressures with him. You know, I think he's, you know, that's where we have not been as good, where when we haven't been as good is when we've been kind of piece working, you know, our nickel package. And we're going to be a solid guy right there, you know. And then Faison's going to be a guy. Those two are battling right now probably for the #1 corner, with Kendall being the nickel guy and Brandon right now being our nickel corner probably when it's all said and done going into this first game until we get toned back. And but you know, those guys are going to, you know, continue to grow. They're true freshmen, but at the same time they both have a lot of abilities, and I'm excited about their future. You know, each snap's going to be a learning experience for them though. But you know, at the field corner sometimes we can hide those guys a little bit or protect them a little bit. I wouldn't say you hide them, but you can protect them with some technique things or playing more of a deep half with those guys, how we play our coverage concepts a little bit. But I'm real pleased with how they're progressing and where they're going right now.
But how much have you addressed the new targeting rules with your defensive backs? And what do you think of it? It seems like there's a very fine line between what's legal and what's not back there.
Yeah, you know, we've never taught targeting anybody. I mean, the main deal is attacking above the shoulders. You know, if we collision hit, I'm ticked off because that's not what we teach. I think there's a fine line, though, and I talked to this to the, you know, we had one of the referees from the ACC spoke to our team about you know, some of the changes there in targeting. There's a couple rules that you know, to me, I think the officials can make a big impact in the game. You know, particular one with a DB or a receiver catching the ball, the DB may not necessarily be targeting a guy, but the receiver comes down and lowers his head, but it looks like a head-to-head contact, then that could be considered, you know, tossing a guy out of the game. And right now they're told if there's any question, he's out of the game. I pursued, my personal opinion is they need to review that because that can make a big impact, you know, on turning one of your players. But we don't teach anything like that. And everything's below, you know, we're tackling from, you know, below the shoulders. You know, our DBs, we do teach what we call a whack tackle, but that's when they're coming hard on, you know, forcing an end run and that type of thing. But that should not be an issue. But I think there can be some issues in that type of play. I mean, you guys going for a ball and he's coming down, and another guy's going for the ball. He's not necessarily trying to strike the receiver, but you can go play the ball. But if there's some helmet-to-helmet contact, it may look like that, you know, he's thrown himself. But I think the deliberate ones where guys are really trying to decapitate guys is going to be the ones that will make the calls. But I think after that, I think it's just going to be football, and you know, that's you know, you gotta still be able to play the game.
But two questions. One about Kendall. You mentioned it seemed like early on you guys were thinking about just start him out at nickel.
Well, I wasn't thinking we were.
You were doing that. That's what you were doing. And were there some things that he showed you, like just aptitude-wise, that gave you the
watching him in high school, watching him out here, and, you know, we weren't able to, you know, really coach him up, but we did. Our kids worked against each other all summer, and you know, and Kendall and Kyle's done a good job coaching him up. You know, I may look to hire Kyle as a football coach here down the road, but you know, just a good football. Watching him play in the Under Armour game, you know, all those things. I mean, and then seeing him in person, that's what you want a 5-star guy to do. And you know, and that's kind of how he's playing right now.
And the second question was about, and I talked with James Gale about this a couple days ago. He's never had much problem getting in the backfield, but he talked about the frustration of watching some film last year and seeing some quarterbacks slip from his grasp. You mentioned that Chase Reddick slipped away 3 times last year in that BC game. Are things you can do technique-wise to help him get guys on,
James
on the ground?
has a knack when he's getting ready to make a hit, kind of duck his head a little bit, which might maybe you lose sight of the quarterback, or you put you on a bad angle, and that's one thing that Charlie's addressed with him. It's kind of a fine line. You want to be able to get. Of course, quarterbacks aren't. A good one's not going to take a sack. He's going to get rid of it. If he's coached well, and but being in a position maybe where we can strip the ball a little bit or get a hand up to disrupt, besides getting a sack. I mean, everybody wants the sack, but there's a lot of other factors that go into putting pressure on the quarterback one way or the other, getting pressure on him where now he's psychologically wounded a little bit, talking about the quarterback. But one thing we talked about addressed with James, just has a tendency just before he makes a hit, kind of just dip his head a little bit. So I don't know if that makes him lose sight of the quarterback, but it's something that we've noticed and observed.
Dennis Carter, back of the room.
But you're playing the #1 team in the country. From a defensive standpoint, is the first game the best time to play Alabama?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a good time to play him or not. I heard that question earlier with, our players and Coach Beamer. We have a great program here. We've had one for a number of years. Take a lot of pride in that. We played Alabama before. Had a chance to beat them when they won a national championship. We've opened up with Southern Cal when they won a national championship. We're not, as a coaching staff, we're not new to this. But we do have some question marks on this football team. It'll be a measuring stick for us. I know in 2004 it was a very similar year going into the year. We had a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball. Lost a really close football game to a national champion in Southern Cal with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and crew. Ended up winning the ACC. So, but I think what this kind of game prepares you for is you're getting ready to play a big time football game. It allows you, I think, from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, that you got a tremendous opportunity. So our kids are really working hard, and it's just not Alabama's not a make or break game for us. Alabama will be a measuring stick where we are, and we're going to find out a lot of questions, with some things that we've got to find out at some positions. But it'll be the starting point for where we can go as a football team. Now, you play the game. And that's why you play it, and we're going to play it for 4 quarters. And I like our mentality, the way our kids are approaching this thing. But they know that this is not this game. Yeah, it can really do big things for our program, but it's not going to make or break our season. But it's a tremendous challenge, but at the same time, it's a tremendous opportunity. So that we're looking forward to.
We got one time for one last question down front.
But a lot of the stuff people have been saying about Kendall is kind of remarkable considering he's a freshman. When was the last time, or how unusual it is to have a true freshman rolling in here, seemingly as ready to play as he is?
I'm trying to think if we have had one, when it's all said and done. It's just nice. I think, but that's a position that you can play as a young player or as a freshman. And, Kendall's been to a lot of games here. He's been to a lot of practices here. He's been here all summer. His brothers had an opportunity to go over everything, walk through everything. I mean, he's had a spring practice under his belt without even being in spring practice. But it's just refreshing to see a guy who has good abilities, that is tremendous football IQ, to come in that early and be ready to go. And, but again, he hasn't taken a college snap yet. When it's all said and done, it's a little bit different practice than it is in the game. And but I think he's a guy that at least has the makeup that I don't think that'll affect him as much as maybe some other freshmen when it's all said and done, or first-time players. There's a lot of redshirt freshmen on this football team that'll be playing their first college snaps. And even though they've been a year in our program, the best way to get better is through game experience, not practice experience. So I think as good as I see what I like right now, I think he's only going to continue to grow and get better, which is very encouraging from our side of it.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys.